GME Vietnam. Can I get a round of applause for the panelists today? Woo! Yeah. Today is a fantastic event. I think I'm honored. My name is Andrew. I'm from dgate.com, and I'm very honored to be on stage and moderating the importance of L2 with the great minds from Polygon, Starkware, ZK Sync, and also Scroll. So without today is a bit special. No mention of SBF or FTX. Instead, we're talking about ZKP or ZK, which is gonna be the future. So without further ado, maybe I could invite you guys to give a short introduction about what you do and your project.
So hi, I'm Louis. I'm replacing my good friend Sibuk. As you can see, I'm not the same person. So I'm the ecosystem lead at Starkware. I've been at Starkware for 3.5 years, and my role is to help bring together the builders to use Starknet and to use Cairo, which is our programming language. What Starkware do, for those who are not familiar, we are a ZK rollup, a company building ZK rollups. And among the people you might be using that you may know of, powering today DYDX, Immutable, and Sorare, as well as working toward the first production-ready ZK rollup for general purpose ZK rollup, which is Starknet, and I'm going to explain a bit more later down the line.
Hey everyone, this is Kevin. I lead developer relations for APAC, and basically Polygon is a suite of scaling solutions, decentralized scaling solutions for Ethereum.
Hello everyone, my name is Marco. I'm the head of BD and partnership and ecosystem for ZK Sync. ZK Sync is a general purpose ZK EVM that is EVM compatible. It uses zero knowledge proof and to provide scaling to Ethereum. And we are, the creator of the first ZK rollup that has been running for a little bit more than 2 years. It was specialized, and we are now about to open to developers the first general purpose ZK VM.
Sorry, it's not working. Hello everyone, my name is Toril Maharamov. And yeah, I'm not a Vazi in real life. I work at Scroll. I'm a researcher there. I also sometimes shitpost. I'm not sure if that counts as a job. Scroll is a zero-knowledge rollup that is built on top of Ethereum with an aim to maximize compatibility with Ethereum. We achieve that through an implementation of ZK EVM that is co-built together with Ethereum Foundation. And the goal of that is to retain as much compatibility with all the Ethereum tools and the existing smart contracts as possible. We're currently in a testnet stage, and we're completely open source from day one, so you can check our code and interact with it. Thank you.
Fantastic. So I think next question goes out to everybody on the panel right now. Importance of L2. What kind of changes do you envision L2 will bring to the entire ecosystem in general? Feel free to take whoever's ready.
I guess I can start with this one. So L2s are people tend to talk about L2s when we were all complaining about the gas cost on L1. And yeah, it was a while ago, I don't know if you remember, people care about blockchain then. And what I've been seeing though on the importance of L2 is that L2 enables devs to go behind what they can actually build today on ETH. So in the context of what I see, in the context of Starknet, I've seen people exploring new concepts, new ideas like account abstraction. So there is this project called Cartridge, and they did this proof of concept drop called NFF.GG, which is non-fungible footballer. Basically, we're minting your player for the World Cup, and you would just connect to the website on your phone, and instantly you would Face ID into your, you just put your username, you would use login, you ask Face ID directly to connect, and you would be minting for you the assets using account abstraction and pay fees for you. So instantly, without paying anything, without having a wallet set up, you could have a real Web2 native interface while interacting with Web3. There is plenty of other ideas that you're looking into, you can bring in, and new exploration into the decent space that we are seeing builders use. So the importance is not because just cheaper, it's also just bring another thing you can build on top.
Yeah, and If I can add, yes, I totally agree. I think the important thing is the fact that today Ethereum is constrained in a lot of ways. And once you start to remove constraint and improve by factor of magnitude some of the key feature, you get a response from the ecosystem that is a multiple of that improvement. And we saw this so many times in the past. And also, if you look at internet connection speed in 1995 was in the kilobits. There were tens of thousands of websites. If you fast forward 10 years later, the internet connection was in megabits and you had the 60 billion website. In the meantime, of course, you had improvement in security, improvement in user experience and usability and ease, but the response is multiples. And we think this is exactly what's going to happen to the Ethereum ecosystem in general. By improving some of these features by just one factor of magnitude, and layer 2s will improve many of these features by at least one factor of magnitude, you will get this massive response from the ecosystem that will blossom in something that is much, much better than what it is today.
Yeah, I think absolutely very, very interesting points. But I also realized that I have to take a step back and kind of explain a little bit about Polygon. Is that we have two fundamental beliefs when it comes to L2s in general. First is this is just our way of thinking it, our train of thought. First is there's really no one size fits all. There's no one magical solution that's going to solve everything. Second is from Polygon side, we're incredibly obsessed with helping with users. So when we talk about users, it's not just end users, it could be the enterprises and could be also developers. How developers built on chains. Why do I mention that? That's why you realize in Polygon, we don't just work on one single L2s. So if you know about Polygon Maiden, Zero, and also, of course, recently for this panel, we focus on zkVM, general purpose zkVM, that's currently on testnet. So we kind of look at it at first, of course, to bring down transaction costs, got to make it super easy for people to do it. That's what we truly believe in.
I think one important thing that Ethereum constrains currently is the creativity of developers, because there's a limit on how much gas you can allocate per block. And so what Scroll allows users to do, and all the other rollups as well, is to basically unlock that creativity, because there's no longer that limit on what people can do in terms of throughput, because not in practice, but you almost have unbounded computational cycles where you can do whatever you want with it.
All right, let's stay on this topic for a little bit. I think you guys all gave a very fantastic views. But what are your thoughts? Do you think there will be a great migration of assets from L1 all the way to L2? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think so. So I mean, that's what both the Ethereum ecosystem, the Ethereum leadership, many of the applications are kind of exploring. And the idea is to make the system modular. So there's really no migration of assets. The assets actually stay on layer 1, but they are represented on layer 2, and that's where the execution engine moves. And there's maybe even more. I mean, the fact that you can go hyperscaling, fractal scaling, it's been called in many ways, where this layer 2 becomes a verification layer and the execution moves, at least in part or in full, onto layer 3s and above. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see how this topology develops. But I would say it's a symbiotic relationship and not a like assets move from A to B.
I got this long time ago. I talked to one of the famous investor. I won't say the name in NFTs, and he told me, you know, about the value of NFTs. It's like real estate. Like you can buy this very nice house in New Jersey, but fuck no, it's gonna be the same price in New York. And it's kind of the same thing, you know, for layers. Like the high value asset, the CryptoPunk of the world, will remain on L1. That's gonna happen. And tomorrow, but the derivative. And the derivative of the derivative, and the derivative of the derivative will move to different layers. And I have this thing I like to say to people, which is, you know, what does it mean to be cheap? You know, everyone say like, oh, cheap transaction. That doesn't mean fuck shit. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Cheap is relative to your application. And so what's gonna happen is layer 2 is gonna have a certain set of operations that are valuable. And you're gonna have layer 3 that's gonna take the lower hand, the long tail of transactions that are less valuable, until, you know, at some point we get to an environment where you're going to be fully centralized, the trustless, you're using zero knowledge proofs, but free transaction. And so this free transaction type is something we're already seeing in the context of Starkware with Sorare, with Immutable, with DYDX, where they abstract away completely the transaction fees because they can, because it's relevant for them. But the transaction themselves will probably be hard to justify running on the L2 or even on the L1. So what I'm trying to say is the assets will discriminate themselves into an environment where it makes sense to transact with.
I think in the future we'll see most of the user activity moving to L2s, L3s, etc., and L1 purely acting as a settlement layer and composability layer between different L2s. So essentially, what you will have is your average user will almost never touch Ethereum, and they'll just spend their time on Starknet, Scroll, ZK Sync, Polygon, etc. And then the liquidity providers, so let's say Connext and all the bridges, etc., are going to use L1 to rebalance their books between different L2s. So as a user, the goal of rollups is for the user to not even realize that you're not interacting with Ethereum, but you're interacting with a layer built on top of Ethereum. And I think the goal is to build a layer that allows us to abstract as much as possible without the user noticing it.
Yep. Just to echo what they mentioned, basically what they mentioned is that it's not either or, right? It's a very symbiotic relationship, as Malcolm mentioned. And basically just the execution side will be on a layer 2s, just to sum it up.
All right, fantastic insights. Let's stay a little bit on the L2 landscape. I think over the past couple of months, we see the competition on different alternate L1s playing out and all that. So would you guys envision a similar L2 battle, if I could use the word, or competition rather, friendly competition? Do you foresee? Yeah. How do you envision that would play out in L2? Anyone? Yeah, maybe.
So here's what we would like to think. We are this big right now in terms of actual L2 adoption, right? So we're not really thinking about competition right now, to be honest. Because let's think about how we can grow the pipe, grow the entire Ethereum ecosystem together. I think this should be a primary focus. I mean, all these projects are doing great work, right? We have different ways of execution, but the end goal is still the same, is to grow the Ethereum ecosystem, right? So we kind of can look at this, and ultimately for us, Polygon specifically, I can speak for Polygon in terms of like our focus. We're very, very focused on just three things. It's just developers, it's dApps, it's users and traction. That's all. Let's grow these three parts and all will fall into place. That's how we look at it, at least.
And I have to say, it's similar, our idea. No? So first of all, the layer 1 competition, as it has panned out, it's clearly not something that works. So competing in a gigantic incentive to the system that leads to a lot of mercenary activity, it doesn't work, or at least it's not useful medium to long term. It's only short-term boost of numbers here and there. Competing with other methods that have been used by layer 1, it doesn't really work. Eventually, the system will settle on something that is a winner-take-all, or maybe winner-take-all never happens, but a winner-take-most. And we are seeing this panning out in layer 1, where the settlement layer, in my opinion, has been clearly won by Ethereum. In the layer 2 space, we are very, very early. So there is, on one side, we were joking about this before outside, we need to be very convinced. And so all of us have a very, very specific idea on how to implement layer 2. And of course, we will defend it and compete in a certain sense about that idea. But at the same time, there's a huge amount of experimentation. There's a lot of stuff in our design that is substitutable. And eventually, we will learn from each other and shift one proof system on another and so on and so forth. And so there is a certain degree of competition. There is a huge degree of collaboration. And ultimately, it's about making that 10x improvement on Ethereum that will allow 1,000, 100,000, 1 million x growth in the ecosystem. In my opinion, though, there will always be a certain portion that will not be subject to competition, and very quickly we will need to settle on something that we will all share. An idea, for example, is the proofing system. So by sharing proofing system among layer 2, you will be able to create a much better degree of interoperability. And it's not there yet or at all, but I think in a very short period of time, we'll probably get to settling all together on something that we will all share and contribute to, and it becomes a public good, which totally allows for a huge amount of competition and other design choices that will then be more suitable for one application or another. So, mixed answer, yes and no, I think.
Ý là in trên cái tờ giấy á hả? Nó không chịu chụp gửi
I
cho
think
em.
on the surface, it
Nó qua
might
nó
seem
chụp
that
cái xong
it's
nó cứ kêu
a
là,
vicious competition as it is with like
gì
different
gửi một cái
L1s.
phôi vô,
But
mình
in the
scan
background,
cho
there's
nó,
actually a
thì
lot
nó
of collaboration happening in terms of standards, in terms of proof systems,
Bây giờ
in
hỏi
terms of
nó
other
giờ
different
nó
things.
bây giờ
For
cái
example,
hình này
a lot of the teams sitting here are contributing to EIP 4844 implementations of Prototype sharding, etc. There are discussions on Poseidon precompiles, etc. And it's a bit different to L1s because competition between different L1s is parasitic in a sense because you steal the users or the TVL from the other L1 without contributing anything back. Whereas in here, we're all contributing to the security of Ethereum by paying Ethereum for settlement. And because it's easily composable in a trust minimized way between different rollups, it's not as vicious as competitions between, I don't know, Avalanche and Ethereum or Avalanche and Solana. And on top of that, I just don't see a universe in which, for the foreseeable future, one rollup can satisfy all the user demand. So essentially, Ethereum as an ecosystem needs a few solutions to satisfy all the user demand that is out there.
I have a rather tricky question right now. So, thoughts on optimistic
Bây giờ mình
rollups?
hỏi nó là bây giờ nếu mà sửa lại mà
L2
info
will
mới bị
be
lại sửa nữa à?
eventually all L2s will be
Đúng
some
không?
form
Bây giờ
of
mình sửa
ZK
lại để map
rollups.
với cái này nó chạy đúng,
Thoughts, comments?
đúng không? Như nãy em yêu cầu.
So I'm gonna jump in. I did say before.
You were wanting to jump.
I'm gonna jump in. No, it was funny because before we joined, we were outside. It was like, be ready. You can throw anything at me. Don't worry. I'm used to
Cái việc
that.
đánh ống này là
I
xưa giờ làm
I
sao ta?
wasn't ready for the.
Bên nó lo là bên mình lo. Bên nó làm cái gì nó gửi thôi cho mình, nó phải làm, nó phải
there
in
is
rồi nó
for
dịch cho mình chứ.
everyone, and
Đúng không? Nó
everything is
sẽ
gonna
đẩy
be
cho mình.
alright. The truth is, my
nó
take
không có đẩy cho mình
if they
được,
are-
nhưng mà nó cứ kêu là bị
I'm gonna
lệch.
go for unpolitical take, and I appreciate my friend at Optimism Arbitrum.
Giờ em cũng
Giờ nó gửi phôi cho mình là nó gửi bằng đường gì chừng nào tới.
The why? Like
Gửi bao nhiêu
we
mẫu?
are all here building the ZK rollup that are honestly
Sao được? Nó
very
phải gửi
close to
mỗi cái 10
production.
mẫu cho mình chứ hư phôi sao?
Why
Đúng
go
không? Em phải thử chứ.
for the optimistic product, which is kind of my perspective. And I
Thì
think
nào
that's
rồi?
from the beginning a band-aid on the problem.
chưa có confirm gửi nó mới nói
And
em.
so, of course, it works right now. You can use GMX on Arbitrum, and it's phenomenal for. And I respect very deeply Thornton and Steven and all those guys, and I respect that. But if you were to, the level of scalability or design change that you can get on an optimistic rollup is much more limited than the one you can get on
Mà nó triển
ZK
khai cái này
rollup.
là nó in bằng
And so,
cái
if you
nền tảng.
try to be right now for the next 2 years or 5 years,
Cái đây
and
nó
you
từ
look
đây
at this pace of development in both
Nghĩ là
fields,
hợp luôn.
there would not be a single choice, in my opinion. So I'm being with controversial choices, and I'm going to say my thought. Like, it's optimistic rollup remind me of Plasma.
I'll agree with Louis and just give a short answer. Yes, I think I can assure you that every single optimistic rollup team is currently looking into how they can transform into ZK rollup at some point in the future.
I guess we can all kind of agree on that. At least that's what we think. At least that's why we're investing a lot in ZK rollups and really understanding how it will change the game. Yeah, I guess that's the way to put it.
And if I may finish, this is a good example of collaboration among ZK rollup. And yeah, I mean, as Vitalik said, ZK rollup will win all use cases. He said in the medium to long term, it seems the medium to long term is coming very quickly.
I just want to point out that I like the fact that I spoke out loud everyone they were thinking. So thank you guys for vouching for me. I was taking like a very hard stance here. Oh really? Honestly, I like if people likes to be very everyone is made of butterfly and teddy bear. So I'm asking here, I don't know if it's controversial or not.
Fantastic insights. Maybe I could invite, I think let's switch gears a little bit and educate and share some ideas. Maybe Marco could help me on this. Explain like I'm five, a short introduction to ZK EVM.
So maybe, as we said before, why? So why did we started to develop ZK-VM? And I'd love to hear also from the other panelists what they think, if they agree. We came to the realization, I mean, we have been working at this for 4 years. And a couple of years ago, we decided to pivot the entire development effort towards creating something that was very, very compatible, ideally as compatible as possible to the EVM. And the reason for that is that we realized that Ethereum and blockchain, in general, they are networks. They're subject to network effect, and there is a network effect that is already formed around the EVM infrastructure. So we decided to become EVM compatible. What is EVM compatible? It means that you, at a very hard level, you support as many as possible of the opcodes that are underpinning the Ethereum virtual machine. But at a broader level, it means that you can support all the tool chain, all the infrastructure that has been built around Ethereum. And by now, this infrastructure is very, very large. Again, we were joking about this before. If you just go back a couple of years, developing on Solidity was very, very tough, and maybe still is. You didn't have a lot of tools that were helping people to do that. Today, the number of tools exploded, and it's extremely important that we allow for this number of tools to be usable by our developer community in as short a time as possible. The other realization is that EVM, for all of its flaws, Solidity, for all of its flaws, has accumulated a certain Lindy property. So you know what you should do to a certain extent, and you know what you shouldn't do. And we felt that this needed to be preserved, that this is value, some sort of critical mass that had been accumulated around it that we wanted to preserve. So there's various flavors of ZK-VM, and I will not go into the detail of that, but in practice, all of them try to point to this kind of like value add for the community.
So I think for us, we started Scroll with a vision to be an extension of Ethereum in a sense. And so we wanted to maximize our compatibility with it and inherit as much of the properties that Ethereum has, which would allow the developers and users to basically experience Scroll as essentially Ethereum with the similar level of security. And the reason I think why it's important to be EVM and Ethereum compatible, I wrote a thread about it a few days ago, is I think that Solidity and EVM is so well documented, and the network effects are so great relative to every other VM or language out there, that it's going to take years for anybody to catch up to Solidity. So for example, if you're a Web2 developer that heard about smart contracts for the first time, and you Google smart contract development, the first 1,000 queries are going to be some form of Solidity tutorial. And to beat that, you have to invest a lot of money and a lot of effort to build the community and all the resources around it. And therefore, I just don't see a world in which, for the foreseeable future, anything other than Solidity can dominate the field of smart contracts.
Yeah, I think for us, we kind of look at it as we want the developer experience to be quite similar to right now, I guess, because that's been a certain kind of network effects. That's what our thought is. That's what we plan to execute. So that's why we're building ZK-EVM.
So in the context of Starkware, I guess for those who follow a bit, we don't really follow that path, at least from the start. We actually just, Cairo, we just actually announced Cairo 1. Cairo 1 is a new version of Cairo. It was open source yesterday, so that was a big announcement. So Torgul can stop bothering me these days on Twitter. It's like he was the one token when he had a couple of months ago. And so the reason why we took that path is because something that is easy to forget or to want to forget is that the way ZKP, the validity proof work, and the way your regular CPU or the EVM work are very, very different. At the pure computing way, at the way the machine themselves work. So just to give you an example for those who are not familiar, but your CPU likes bits and bytes and Boolean logic. It likes an AND, a XOR, a NOT, and the OR. ZKP likes arithmetic logic. It likes addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. And the base element you're going to work with is no longer in bits and bytes. It's what we call a field element, which is basically a big unit, a big number. And so what we tried to optimize for when we started, and since to this day, was to optimize for performance, making a VM that optimized for taking advantage of the requirement of the system, which are, as they say, arithmetic logic and a bunch of other things. And so this is why we came with Cairo, with performance in mind. And what we're seeing now is it's actually very easy to retrofit, to do the backward compatibility now. And so there was 2 projects that were launched outside of Starkware. One called Warp. So Warp is a transpiler from Solidity to Cairo. And you can use it today. It works relatively well. And another one is called Kakarot. And Kakarot was started by, it's actually a funny story why it started. I don't think you know that story. Do you? Huh? Yes. So we were in Bogota, so a month ago, and Abdel, who is one of the newest person of Starkware, also from Recordev, got massively triggered by a friend called Mark Zeller, who's the head of head of ecosystem for Aave. As Mark said, basically, you need to be a Soyuz astronaut to basically write in Cairo. And so Abdel is starting to rewrite, say, fuck it, I'm going to write a ZKVM in Cairo. And he started by himself, and he's starting to get like someone from Lucas from Starkware, and then he's starting to bring in community builders. And in a month and a half, we were able to get we are missing 30% of our code, and we are able now to compile. They are able to compile ERC20. And the next step will be 721, which shouldn't be too far out. And the next one after that is Uniswap V2 type of contract. So all of that is what I'm trying to say is that there are multiple ways to get to the EVM compatibility and multiple reasons you want to get though. We took a different path, a different project to another one. And all of that is the interesting thing that we can still try to achieve the same goal, taking a different approach and see what sticks the best.
Just to add one thing, it's not really a panel with Lewin on it if he doesn't complain about EVM.
That's true. That's true. Why? Why KCHAC?
All right, we're kind of running out of time, but one last question for everyone over here. Just a quick one-liner. What, in your opinion, what is the end game for Ethereum? Just one-liner.
World domination.
Could use the time.
Is absorbing the world of value. So all the value that is in the world that is expressed in so many different ways will end up on Ethereum.
Simplify, please.
No. I think the future is a global settlement layer for for a lot of rollups.
Thank you so much, guys. Can we give it up for our panelists of today?
Thank you.